So we're on for the evening session, the sixth, where are we on the fifth? Sixth session of 8 sessions that we've got this week on the NJCT Digital Summer Camp 2021, and 2 fantastic Olympians as well joining us tonight for this coach parent session. Maria Prytz, Olympic silver medalist in Sochi, European champion, now national coach, Olympic champion coach with Team Hasselborg in 2018, and now national coach for the Swedish team. And Greg Drummond, Olympic silver medalist, world silver medalist. Europeans, you won the Europeans, Greg?
Bronze.
Bronze at the Europeans, okay. and now coaching, and you got your gold medal at the World Mixed Doubles now with Bruce and Jen, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Congratulations on that win. And
Cheers.
Thank you very much on short notice jumping in when unfortunately David had something that he couldn't get out of. So yeah, like the U2 song, he's stuck in a moment he couldn't get out of. So, so we're delighted that Greg could join us for this evening's session. Great, guys. So basically, I think the idea for the session, we've got a lot of parents and coaches involved here, and I want to just go through a few things. If we could maybe do about sort of 25 minutes till about past, where we just go a few, I'll pop some questions out there. You guys give your opinions, we can discuss it. And then from about past, we'll open up to questions. Now, if there's anyone that can't see the chat group, please just put your video on if you want to ask a question. Keep the microphones off, and then we'll ask the questions for the group, and then we'll try and work it that way. But if you can, please pop your questions into the chat group, the meeting chat, I think it's called. Anyway, all right. So let's start with a little opener here. So obviously you guys have been highly successful elite players yourselves. Now you're on the coaching side of things. As players, what did you learn about coaching styles that you're now taking with you to being successful coaches? And we'll start you on that one, Maria. Ladies first.
Yeah. So you mean what I brought from elite to my own coaching?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I like can be my style of coaching, it's mostly a holistic coaching style. So I think it's really important to see the whole person and the bigger picture, not only focusing on curling, but to make sure that the people grow in more ways than just on the curling scene. So for me, it was really much focus on curling, and some other stuff had I had to take that away. And I think it's really important to have a balance between even your athlete activities and your family and friends and your other interests. And also now when we're talking about young people, maybe you need to have a double career to have something to fall back on when your time is out on curling. You never know when that's going to happen, and it can be your own choice, but it can also, if you're not motivated enough, but sometimes you get injured or something and you need to be able to do something else. So for me, I've learned that it's really important to have double careers, and and to have a good balance in life.
Before I get to your thoughts on that, Greg, what did you have a backup plan? Now, you obviously both of you are in a wonderful position to be working within curling and having it as your job. What was your backup plan as a player before you moved on to the coaching?
Are you with Greg now or me?
Sorry, I was with Greg on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before my move into my coaching, I had a career in finance. But when you spend the best part of 10 years as an elite athlete, you get engrossed in the sport, and it becomes your life, and it almost takes over. And the natural progression for me was to move into coaching. I had that sort of early desire to be involved in the sport as long as possible. I always said when I was in the early stages of my elite career that I'll be here forever. I'll be playing when I'm 50, kind of thing. And you quickly realize that you go through stages in life where your priorities change. So You know, you for me, it was you get a partner, you get engaged, you know, you're buying a house, and then, you know, with that comes bigger responsibilities, like, you know, you have to pay the bills somehow, etc., etc. And the sort of the reality kicked in that, okay, I can't curl as a player forever, but I can absolutely still contribute to the sport. So in my last few years, I made that sort of initial stages into exploring the world of coaching. And, you know, certainly in the last 2 years, that was my view on coaching changed, to say the least, and I can maybe touch on a couple of those things later.
And how would you describe your coaching style then?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, because when I was in the early stages of my career, when I reflect back now, I was almost in this little blinkered vision state of mind. So I was in my own little bubble, and everything was all about me, all about winning. You know, defeat was the end of the world. It was, but I was surrounded by people that were trying to help me in the right ways, but I didn't always realize that at the moment, in the moment. So it wasn't until I probably matured a bit, and in those latter years, I started to understand that the things people were trying to help me with were actually for my benefit. You know, and to follow on from what Maria said earlier, it's about that sort of holistic approach to coaching, where the coach is actually interested in the curler as a person, more than just them as a curler. You know, there's a bigger piece to it there. But in my early years, I didn't appreciate that for what it was, and that was, you know, oh, I just shoved that to one side. You know, let's get on with the curling kind of thing. And, you know, it's interesting how your experiences as a player, they stay with you, and they almost help you when you move on in your career. So I feel like I'm probably going to be a better coach because of those experiences. You know, I wasn't the perfect athlete, but I certainly took the learnings on board, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And Maria, what was your backup plan as you were moving to the later stage of your sort of curling career?
Well, I've tried to quit curling a couple of times, but it never works. Can't get out. No, I'm just kidding. But no, actually, when I started my elite career, it's not that long ago. It's like 2016. I played my last Worlds, and at that time, I thought that, well, I've done my part. I can just do it for fun now and maybe contribute to the club or something like that. I didn't want to like end curling and like for good. And that's not what I said to my team either. Maybe I come back sometime, but right now I don't think that we're making as much progress as I wish. But it only took a couple of weeks before I got a phone call from Anna Hasselborg's team, and they asked me, like, what do you think about coaching? Is that anything that's interesting for you? And of course it was. It was a great opportunity to try like leadership and get more educated in that part. So I got into that together with the team. And I had some great years with coaching them. After a while with the team that good, I just thought that I have given it all to them. They are so good. I think they need something more than I can give them. So, well, I thought I can pass that on to someone else and move forward and go through with my career as a communication consultant. So I did that, but it only took a few months before it was a job available, and Peja ended the job as a head coach for Sweden, and I got the opportunity to go into this role as a head coach. So, and you know, when you get these opportunities with something you love, you just can't say no. It's like, even if you thought you would, then for me, it just felt right and something that I needed to do right then, but I didn't have a clear path. It's like just getting into my hands somehow. So we have a little different approach there, but every way is good.
I know what you mean. I said after the camp last year when I was exhausted, I'm not doing that again, but here we are. And that's fun. Now, obviously, you guys have played curling for a long time, both of you, and you transitioned from the juniors to playing senior curling to playing elite curling, and there's a big difference that I'd like to touch on there. How big a role are parents, or how have your parents been in your interest for sport and how they've affected you, or coaches in that case as well? How been coaches that have formed you and helped you coming through the junior ranks, moving up? Let's go with Greg on that one.
Yeah, speaking of my experiences, my parents were essentially the biggest part of the support network throughout not just my elite career, but that particularly the early stages, you know, going to junior events every week, you know, being the taxi drivers, being essentially funding it to an extent because we were still at school. So I really think that parents play a huge role in the development of any young athlete, and that's not just curling. That's any sport. I think just being that support mechanism, and you know, there's a really fine line between the relationship between the athlete, the parent, and the coach, I think. I don't know if that's something we were going to get onto a little bit later, but for me, if those three corners of the triangle communicate very well, it can only help the athlete develop. I think when there's cloudiness around the communication and just not about anything in particular, but just general conversation about how that athlete is getting on, if there's cloudiness around that, it can't help. So, you know, it's something I would encourage any sort of parent of a young athlete to do is engage with the coaches and ask questions and, you know, understand, you know, what's your kid working on today? You know, what's the plan for next week? You know, just little things like that. But, you know, speaking of my parents again, they were huge in the support network, and you know, I think part of the reason I did well was because those foundations were in place and they understood the boundary between trying to coach me and leaving that to the actual coach, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's a fine line. And it's interesting. It's interesting you touch on that, Greg, because as you know, I work as a teacher, and we talk a lot about that during parent-teacher sessions. That it's like a three-legged chair. You know, you have to have the teacher, the parent, and the student all on the same page. And when one of those legs falls down, then the whole thing falls down. So that communication is hugely important.
Absolutely.
With you there. So Maria, what was your experience with that, with sort of parents and coaching influences as you grew up?
Well, pretty much the same as Greg. It was like I had really good support from my parents. Well, I didn't only do curling when I was young. I was into downhill skiing, dancing, basketball, well, skating and other stuff. Like I didn't decide for curling until pretty late. Like maybe I was 14 or 15 when I started to focus on curling, and I still had some other interests. And my parents, they supported me in all the stuff, and I don't think they tried to push me on any way, but I think they saw that I enjoyed more being in a team than being on my own in downhill. Like that was competing in that was like my worst nightmare. It made me sick every time. And I didn't feel that way about curling because, you know, well, you do it all together, you win and lose as a team. And I think that was really important for me, like to really dedicate to curling, that both having the support and also enjoying it very, very much. But the parents are really important, and also for me, they are still very important since I have 2 sons, and I got divorced pretty early, like when my youngest was 2. So I still had to really lean on my social network. Has been some years that my mother has been with my kids for like 60 or 70 days for a year. So for me, it's still really important with the social network, and that's like it's not bad for the kids to have more grown-ups in their lives if they can be there and support. So I think it's really important, and also like friends, and well, you need everyone to make this happen. It's not your own journey, it's something you do together with your family.
Sure. And Greg, golf growing up, I'm thinking of other sports that you did. How was it for you growing up as well? Because as we all know, it's important to play other sports to get some kind of balance, and it's also good for the body when you're younger. So what kind of sports did you play?
Yeah, I didn't actually play golf until 2015, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a pretty late bloomer in the old golf world, but you know, in hindsight, I wish I did play it earlier, because it's, you know, it's good for that body coordination, hand-eye coordination, which is I think a vital part of curling. I tried my hand at a number of sports, but never really found one that sort of, you know, that I flourished in. And it wasn't until I think I had a friend that went to the junior club at curling, and I was asked to come along one Sunday morning. Got a little one-to-one lesson, and, you know, within half an hour was able to throw the rock to the other end. But in all honesty, I didn't want to go back the next week. I physically got dragged into that curling rink and left there for an hour. So I think it obviously turned out to be a wise decision. But yeah, I wasn't the most sporty guy at school. Tried my hand at a few things, but you know, I think it just goes to prove there is something for everyone. Curling wasn't the A1 most popular sport in Scotland. You know, we've got football, golf, rugby, but, you know, curling was my sport, and I'm sure it will be for many others.
And just touching on that, with, you know, you got dragged back into it, but I'm thinking, you know, we talked a little bit about that, Maria, about making that decision at some point. At some point, kids have to make a decision, and whether it's, you know, 12 or whether it's 17 or you know, some people are even older, it's a sport you can obviously decide later. Do you notice a difference now than maybe when we were younger, growing up in the sport, because it's an Olympic sport now? Pushy parents. Are we seeing more of that now, or is this something we need to watch for?
Well, I've seen it in other sports for sure, like my son's soccer team. You can see a lot of different parent styles. Screaming and yelling, and yeah, well, I've seen that, but I think that might have been also when I was younger, but maybe a little bit more intense now. I don't think in curling we have that much of a problem. Well, it can be. Well, of course I've heard of situations where parents get a little bit too engaged and maybe not trusting the process with the coaches, etc. But I don't think it's that much of a problem for us. I mean, you know more, James, working with the juniors. I don't work that much with juniors, so.
Hey, I'm asking the questions. I'll fill in later. Greg, what do you think about? Was Greg frozen again?
Yeah.
He looks very focused, at least. Yeah. So just one thing I wanted to ask you about, Maria, just back to what you said about the start, you know, being the coach and you want to see the holistic approach. Yeah. Is there a risk looking at the holistic approach that you maybe miss getting into the details? Because when you see the big picture too much, you can miss the fine details that can make the difference between maybe winning or losing, or yeah. What do you think about that?
Of course, it can be like that, but it's all about planning and well, getting together as a team. In the level where my teams are, our top teams, they are so aware of the details and what work to be done. And even though, well, I want to see the smaller details, but the bigger picture, we have to make plans together. So I don't think that is a big risk, because at that level, you're so aware that you have to also focus on the small details. So we all need to help each other with that. And I haven't seen that as a problem, because the athletes of today are so into progress all the time. So I don't see that as the bigger problem, but of course you can encourage and inspire and like pick up trends and give good ideas. But I don't think that a good coach should control every situation or dominate or like solve every problem. You have to do that together.
And Greg, you froze up there for a second, but we were just talking about, like Maria was talking about, seeing the big picture. Obviously, Maria being national coach and you being more of a team coach, you coach Team Ross White, which is one of the major teams, up and coming teams now, certainly from Europe, but even in the world, I would say. And obviously with the mixed double success, how much small detail do you go into, like the finer details, against how much do you have to work with the big picture?
Yeah, I think as Maria said, you know, these top teams these days, they're chasing success every day, and such small things in their eyes make a difference. I think, you know, particularly with the group of guys that I'm working with at the moment, you know, they want success instantly and they're hungry for it, but they need to be aware of the bigger picture and the long-term goals. You don't win a marathon by sprinting. You know, it's all about quite precise planning when it comes to their training schedules. You know, break it down into smaller blocks, and just I find it's beneficial to work on a few key small things and do them exceptionally well, rather than try and cram everything into one block. I feel like you get better quality at the other end, and that's it's a challenge because athletes have different mindsets and they view progress and success in different ways than, say, maybe a coach does. So I think part of coaching for me is actually goes a bit further than just the teaching aspect. It actually becomes a bit more of an educational piece and laying the foundations for these guys to go out and seek the benefits and the progress. Some of the top curlers in the world today, right? They're incredibly clever, right? And they understand the game to the fine details. And actually, with or without a coach, will get better. But the role of coaching, in my opinion, streamlines that process and plans it out effectively and accordingly. I can plan sessions and the guys will go out onto the ice and they will complete them to the best of their ability. But it's the stuff that happens before they even step on the ice, in my opinion, that's where the value is.
So if we're looking at the juniors, sorry, now we're thinking towards the parents and the coaches that are listening just now. If we're looking to those juniors that are at this camp, and we've got kids from 10 years old up to probably 19, 20, somewhere around there, what kind of traits are you looking for that you encourage to develop? So when they get up to your level as team coach at national, international level, Greg, and then up to your level as national coach, Maria, what kind of traits are irrespective of what age you're at, what you're looking for?
I think one of the fundamental things that'll aid a curler during their career is just solid mechanics. That's a piece that I probably neglected when I was a junior. I just had a way of doing things. I turned up, I would, throw my in turn like this and my out turn like that, and that was just it. But as I sort of was introduced to the concept of coaching, and I think it was our first sort of real technical coach would have been Soren Gran from Sweden, who took us to the Olympics. He introduced us to the idea of better mechanics. And what we see now, certainly in Scotland, is that concept is being introduced to players younger and younger. And some of the kids that are coming through the pathway in the program, their mechanics are a million miles ahead of where I was at that age. So, you know, if I can narrow it down to one thing, I would say solid mechanics, but the list's probably ever ending. I don't know if Maria's got anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I agree that when you're a little bit younger yourself, maybe you don't see how important that is. And another side that maybe you're not that keen on working out in younger ages are like mental health and like your capacity of that part. So I think that is another big step to take, like to be aware of your emotions and your actions according to them, and getting to know your team and your coach, and getting together with communication and all that part. I think that one is, you can see that on in all big great teams today, how important it is, and it like separates a good curling team from, or a successful curling team from another one, that it's the team spirit. So, and that part is well, a joy to work with as a coach, I think.
And this certainly rings true from all the other sessions, the chat with the champ sessions that we've had. Everyone's been touching on those things about you know, the communication within the team, and how you can even save time and even save matches by having good communication and knowing where you're at. But and that's more at the sort of higher junior end, towards the elite level, obviously, when you're playing with time clocks. But like you say, you have to build these up from somewhere, and the earlier you start, probably the better success you have when you get up there. And it certainly, you can see these teams, I think, at juniors now, where they have specific coaches, and they're getting kind of fast tracked, just like you guys are doing, Greg. You say they're coming through with great technique, and a lot of teams of sports psychologists working with the kids early and getting them in the right place. So I think the level's a lot higher now than when, you know, certainly when me and you grew up, Maria, and even for you, Greg, it's moving up for every Olympic cycle, that's for sure.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And this sort of transition from being a talented junior at your club through to being a talented, maybe national player where you're playing World Juniors and moving on to seniors, where do you see like the differences? Where do you see the divider for these kids? Is it technique? Is it attitude? Is it tactics? Is it a combination? What are you seeing?
I think it's a bit of everything, James. You know, again, I speak from my own experiences, and you know, I turned out to be a half decent curler. But if I could go back and do it again, I probably would do things differently. You know, I probably wasn't the most coachable guy at times, and I had my own way of doing things. But if kids that are at that sort of age bracket where, you know, they're good juniors moving into elite juniors, maybe uni games, I think the more and more people can be open to a help and assistance. They need to understand that everyone that's in their sort of inner circle in curling, they're all trying to help you, and it's sometimes quite a hard thing to get your head around at the time, because they may ask you to do something slightly different or tweak this or change that. And it's not because they're trying to make you a poorer curler. It's something that will ultimately benefit you in the long run. And I found that quite difficult as a player, but on reflection, I can absolutely understand the reasons why people were telling me those things. So, you know, again, to pass on a bit of advice, I would say try and be as open to feedback as possible. It's if that relationship's there with a coach, with a parent, you know, again, the foundation for progress and success is good.
Maria, how do you with your communication background, how do you coach an uncoachable? Can you coach an uncoachable?
Last year, I had a session about that.
Exactly. So, but that was for the juniors last year. Now this is for the parents and the coaches.
Yeah, well, we can go dig deep into that one, but I think like when it comes to like make the road to the elite curling, you gotta know that it takes a lot to be there. It's no shortcuts. It's like you need to know that, and also your motivation comes from inside. I mean, I get really much questions sometimes from both parents and coaches and athletes about how to motivate other people to take the step from junior to senior. And I think that has to come from within. You need to do the job, and you need to understand that you have this work to be done. So that's what we can help, what I can help with, and coaches too, like to discuss what it takes if you want to go that path. I mean, maybe you don't realize that when you're on your way from juniors to seniors, but I mean, there are pretty much people then that can be your mentors, and like maybe give an hour to the young people just to get inside what it really takes. And from there you have to have a plan together with your coach. Okay, what do we need to do to make this happen? And like Greg says, it's like a really big important thing is to be able to take feedback, of course, and you also need to train on like thank the giver. And that's also something that I've been working hard on as being a coach, and also now I mean, it's something you have to work on every day, to be thankful for the feedback you get. So you're never done there. So that's a really big part, and I really agree there with Greg. And also it's important to know that elite curling is a lifestyle. Like Greg took the step early to go in it. Well, like you want curling, that's your life. And for me, it's also been a lifestyle, even though I've had some other projects running, but I can't ever see myself stop with curling. So that's also a big step. And like being aware of the details when you're young, like it creates plans for all the way from mechanics to nutrition and sleeping, like recovery, workout. Well, you have so many small stuff to work on that you can improve, even though you don't get the results. You can still be able to set goals depending on your progress. So that's really important, I think.
One thing that we try and do with our kids at the junior club here in Sundbyberg is we focus a lot, and this is a holistic approach again, but we try and focus on that there's so many different areas that you can go in curling. It's not just elite or nothing. And I think that's a huge problem, it's certainly an issue that we have to deal with within curling. Because it's only going to be a certain amount of people that are going to make money or break even competing. So partly that's showing them different pathways, but also like you're touching on there, Maria, the sleeping, the nutrition, these are life skills that that kids are going to learn from. And you know, regardless if you become a teacher, a CEO at a company, an Olympic medalist, you know, a nurse at a hospital, it's the same thing. You have to understand your sleep, you understand your personality, understand your nutrition, and what you need as a person, and how you can help people around about you. So these are huge issues that are extremely important.
Yeah.
Let me see here. One more question, and I'm just going to open up to people here, because the time flies. We could spend I could spend days talking about this. I managed to get a quick dinner in before we got onto the session, between sessions today. Actually, even Kate Ness was touching on this afternoon. She was on for a little while, and Kate was touching on that pathways to different parts of curling, that it's not just, you know, we touched on her journey through curling, that, you know, becoming the first female international sports president, which is huge. I think it's important to show pathways. And even to coaching and whatnot. Questions coming up soon. I haven't seen many questions in the chat box, and maybe some people are having trouble accessing it. But if you want to ask a question, I'd invite you to put your camera on now, and then I'll try and monitor that in some way. Just one last thing for you guys while we're seeing if any questions come up. I'm thinking then the road from seniors and then up to elite. What do you guys want specifically from your athletes when they come up to your level? So I'm thinking like me as a junior coach, I'm trying to deliver my juniors to the next stage to give them a good base. But what do you guys want when it gets to top elite?
Well, it's a lot of stuff, but what I need from my athletes and also it's quite similar that I need from my kids actually. I mean, I want them to be accountable, like come in time, like the small stuff, be dedicated and respectful to others, and like 100% responsible for their own actions. Aware of their emotions and like be able to have an open communication to make a way for progress. Trusting your teammates, trusting your family, it's the same thing. And also what we were into a little bit, like being open to feedback and sleep, eat, having fun, like all that stuff. So I really that's what I need from my athletes. It's like well, surround yourself with dreamers and doers and believers and thinkers, and like well, see the greatness when other people don't. It's like it's not that hard.
Sorry, just before you jump in there, Greg, it was so funny this afternoon. Anna said that just about the nutrition part. We talked about the debriefs, and she goes, the one most important thing is never go to a debrief hungry. Always eat before the debrief. She said, write that down.
That's good advice.
What about you, Greg? What's your tips here?
It's really hard to add anything to what Maria's just said. I think it's often a lot of the little things away from the curling ice, the curling sheet of ice that make the difference. It's that accountability for turning up on time. It's it's being prepared to work hard and being prepared to take feedback in the tough sessions and come back tomorrow and start all over again. It's those little things that just make you an all-round good athlete. Raw talent will only take you so far, but if you can attach all those little pieces to your toolbox of skills, I think you'll be a better athlete for it. I think as a coach, there's no greater pleasure in working with people that want to be there and have the drive and motivation for me.
Yeah. And like you say, with the talent, a lot of people have talent, but that tends to fade away. And then the ones that have got the dedication, they tend to keep going. And then you get the ones that are exceptional that have both the talent and the dedication, but it's a very small percent.
It's the 1%.
It's the 1%. I would say there's a bit of elite players. It's a huge percent that's the dedication's there over the talent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lisa, could you put your camera on and ask your question here? Unless you want me to ask, but there we go. Excellent. Lisa, there we go. Oh, you need to get your microphone on there, Lisa.
Thank you. So I have two junior curlers who are ages 15 and 18, and I feel like I'm always coming across as the nagging mother. Like, did you work out today? Did you, what are you eating? What, you're getting ice cream again? And I struggle with that, keeping that healthy balance and at the same time helping them reach their goals.
I can see that. I'm a mother too, so I know that it's easy to go that road, and maybe it's like a parenting thing to ask. Don't be too hard on yourself. But what I try to do with my kids, my boys, is like try to ask open questions, more of what, when, how, and why, than asking yes and no questions, like letting them tell you stuff. Actually, I asked my 17-year-old today, because I never really did that, but I asked him how to be a good parent. Have you ever done that? I hadn't, but I think, how can I get the answer if I don't do it? And I took some notes actually, and he said, like, Mom, you just have to be interested. You don't have to be there all the time, but if I want to, please be there. I want to be seen, and I want you to be present when I talk to you. I want good support, and I don't want you to force me, but I want you to help me with my discipline. And also, he says, like, to help me with my motivation. He wanted us to celebrate success. I don't think we've been the best at that, and like focus on the good stuff, not so much on the bad stuff. And also, like, he also said that he's a boxer actually, and he said that maybe I will lose 40 games, but I can still get a long way. So that's my tip, is like to talk to your kids about it, how to be a better parent. I wish I hadn't done that when he is 17, but never too late.
Better 17 than 18.
Yeah, correct.
Greg, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think Maria's pretty much summed it up. In all honesty, it comes back to communication. And, you know, it's not about doing one thing well all the time. It's about finding a balance. You know, you have to remember, like, you know, growing up as kids, yeah, they're going to get some things wrong probably. I'm pretty sure I got a lot wrong. And, you know, I'm not a parent, so I can't, my experiences are slightly different, but I think, you know, encouraging them to find the balance between good and bad, right or wrong, whatever it may be. But yeah, all around communication and just conversation, encourage them to make their own decisions. And in time, if when you're communicating, you're essentially educating them at the same time, you know, with the type of questions that Maria was relating to, they'll eventually make the right decisions. As I guess, to the point we made earlier, as parents, you are the linchpin of the support network at times. And, you know, I wouldn't underestimate how valuable that role is. Certainly when kids are into sport. You know, their emotions will be like a roller coaster. They'll be up and down, here, there, and everywhere. But having that solid foundation in place to communicate honestly with them, I think, is probably the most important thing. I can't really add much more.
And I think as a parent and coach as well, it's a fine line. At some point, you're going to have to back away. You could be the best coach and have the best ideas. I think a great example of that was Andy Murray. Talented tennis player, but didn't reach his potential till his mum backed off and he got another coach. And I think even in the case of Anna Hasselborg, same thing there. Dad, a phenomenal player, but at some point you have to back off and let them do it by themselves. And that's a tough one. That is a really tough one, being an engaged parent and even working as a coach and parent. That's a tough role to know when to back off, but it could be the most important decision you'll ever make. Thanks for the question, Lisa. Great question. Kevin, you've got another question up here. There we go, sure. Kevin.
The question is one that's born out of experience more than anything. I mean, I have a relatively young child who's been curling for 2 or 3 years, minus COVID, of course. And you talked about the triangle between parents, child, and coaches. I just wondered how significant in your experience you felt for the parents to you know, in terms of the success of the child, for the parents to be curlers themselves, because I'm not a curler. You know, it has been a bit of an experience as an outsider looking in terms of trying to understand the setup, the environment, the language. And I've started curling myself 3 months before COVID came in, just so I felt I could be supportive of my child's effectively very early journey, because what it seems to me that there is a significant step between early years curling where you know, a lot of the lessons are group based. They happen occasionally, you know, not very frequently in terms of taking up the sport seriously. And then there's a step to what sounds like a, you know, more junior curling where the coaching may be more personalized. And my experience is that you know, in terms of supporting my child, I found it more difficult very early on, and I just wondered whether it makes a difference to the success of a child if the parents are, you know, curlers themselves. You know, you have all these great curling families. You know, we don't have a background in it. We're trying to grapple with everything that it means to be a young curler. What's been effectively your experience of how successful a child can be based on their background?
There's many examples of champions that didn't have backgrounds or parents as curlers. Agnes Knockenhauer is one of them, and you'll get an answer soon from 2 other people that didn't have curling parents as backgrounds. So, Greg, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, no, just as you said there, James, both my parents did not come from a curling background, as did none of my family. I think, I touched on it earlier, how I got involved in curling, and I think I would be correct in saying my parents made a decision to get to know people in the curling club, okay? And it would have been quite easy, and I've seen this with other people my age group, I still see it happen now. It would be very easy for you in your example to, let's just paint an example. Kids are going away to a tournament, couple hours drive down the road. It would be, and one of the kids' parents is a curling family. It would be very easy to get that parent to take all the kids in the car and they do all the driving while the other parents from the non-curling family sit at home and wait to find out the results. I think my parents took the approach that, okay, no, we want to get involved in this as well. So we understand there are curling families out there. We need to make the conscious effort to get to know them, and we need to go to the junior events and interact with people and get to know the tournament organisers and the ice makers, and like you say, you're learning a bit of the language, a bit of the ins and outs of how it all operates. But the kids will learn curling at their own pace. They'll learn faster than the adults, right? That's just how it works, I think. So I don't think you need to worry that much about helping your kid progress at the sport. There's people there to help them do that. The coaches, they'll do a lot of it themselves once they figure out the basics. But I would invest the time in just getting to know the people. I think that's what my parents did. Like I say, I was not from a curling family and went on to have a reasonably good career in the sport. And I wouldn't even call my family now a curling family. We're just we don't have that legacy of 4 generations.
You're just a family.
We're just a family that had a couple of curlers.
That's like Petter was talking about. He says that he likes dad jokes, but now he's become my dad. They're just called jokes. So same thing. Maria, what's your opinion about that?
Well, I don't come from a curling family either. I mean, my dad, he can play curling. He's been on like this company league, but that's mostly for fun. The way in for me, Kevin, it was through my teacher actually at that time. His name is Leif, and he was really, really engaged into curling. And I think that is the most important thing for juniors. It's to have clubs and different kind of leaders and persons in the club that are engaged and make it a good environment together with the kids. It doesn't matter if my parents can't play, but my dad was really, really interested in everything, and he was always the one driving us everywhere. Because the other ones in my curling team, they didn't have curlers as parents either, so nobody knew anything. But back at my home club, they started programs for the juniors pretty early with like young people training young people. So we had like coaches, but they were just like 4 or 5 years older than us, and we really look up to them. So that was a very good way for our club to make it work. And we, for a small town of like 4,000 people, we had so many curlers back then. I think it was really important with the club and all the fantastic people in that one. And for me also, I had these great opportunities for sometimes to go with other teams than my junior team to try something more. I got to play with some older ladies to play the Swedish championships, and it was really huge for me to have that possibility. And also I got to go as an alternate early on with some teammates for the junior worlds and stuff like that. So that was really important for me to like getting motivated and get into the sport.
And I think what we do at the Sundbyberg Club, when myself and my wife came back into the sport again, and took over the sort of running of the junior club there, we saw that as well. A lot of parents that have no curling background, majority of them actually, but everyone has got life experience. All adults have got life experience. So it was a question of getting to know the parents, like Greg's talking about, get to know the people. Okay, what do we have in our group here? Like the whole it takes a village to raise a child scenario. Okay, you're great at baking, amazing, right? You do that when we have competitions. What do you like? Oh, you like driving. Okay, you're the driver then. What do you like doing? Well, you take care of the brooms and stuff like that. You know, everyone can do something. You like taking pictures. Well, we've got one of the fathers that's on here today. He's a non-curler, and now he's become the official photographer for NJCT and goes around and does amazing photos and loves doing that. And all of these small things build up to this big picture. Let it. And I'm a believer in if you let the person do what they like doing, they're going to do it really well. If you force a person to do something they don't like doing, it's going to be a disaster from the start. So I think just an open, again, back to communication and open communication and let everyone do their bit to feel like they're being part of a process. And that's really cool. Then you get people engaged.
Yeah, your wife was in the same club as me, so.
Exactly. Now she's in the same club as me, so.
Yeah.
So that works out well. Kevin, great.
Yeah.
Great question. And again, that's a thing we could spend hours and hours and hours talking about. Gesa from Germany.
Hi, everyone. Well, my question is, how do you help or support juniors with the transition to seniors? Because we have so many juniors dropping out of curling when they get too old. They just can't deal with not being successful, or I don't know what. So do you have any programs or any ideas on that?
Greg, you want to go there? Because you've got a big structure in Scotland, and extremely well thought out, but it's very focused towards elite. How do you guys work with that outside of the elite?
I think it's something we touched on a little bit earlier, where a lot of teams, they all want to be part of that 1%, and when they don't make it, they just disappear from curling, and it's kind of sad to see that in a way. So what we do try to encourage, particularly with the juniors that are on the pathway, is absolutely prioritize your education, and if that leads to a career that can be supported at the same time as curling, it might be possible to continue everything on that rise up the pyramid. I think the other thing that's quite important to educate people in is that it's not all about being part of that 1%. If you enjoy curling that much, there are other avenues that you can explore in curling should you fail to be part of the 1%. And I think the earlier we can get kids and players involved in, I'm thinking of examples, right? Voluntary roles in curling. The earlier you start doing those, it'll become part of your life pretty quick. But if you don't explore those avenues in the early years, and you get to the point where you're 19 or 22 or whatever, and you disappear from curling, as a member of a curling organization, I would feel like, God, that's a person lost there, because we didn't focus some attention on them in a different way earlier in their career. I've certainly seen that happen, and I think it's brilliant when kids get involved in things away from just being an elite curler. Even coaching. I think the earlier you start coaching, the more you're likely to stay involved in the game in some capacity.
Maria?
Yeah, well, I think that most of this work needs to be done in the clubs, like helping the juniors getting to have fun ways to play and to practice and stuff like that. But also from my side, from my view, it's also important that helping all these juniors to get together, like with camps and different ways where they also can have some contact with the elite curlers. We tried that last year before we couldn't anymore get together because of COVID, to have a big camp with both the elites and the upcoming juniors from the juniors, and also to up to age group 25 with individual spots to camp, and trying to have some interaction between these groups. And I think it's really important, and I got a lot of feedback from that. So that's just one way, and also like mentorship and like having good role models is also good. And so maybe for young teams or individuals, like find someone that can be there on your journey, even if it's not a coach. It can be another role model that can be there for you and help you progress.
And I think as well with we talk about the pathways, like for example photography. We've got, there's opportunities within photography, within curling. There's opportunities within ice making, within media. There's so many different ways that you can keep within the sport, within being a member on the board at the local club. If you like baking, bake off for your local club. There's just so many small things you can do. And I think that's important. Maybe when they're getting to the point when they're choosing the career at that age, it's tough to try and save it. But I think you have to kind of look at the whole process from when the kids come in. We have a couple of kids at our club, a great example, 2 lovely little girls. They've been playing for the last 4 years now. And for the first 2.5 years, we said, well, I'll tell you what, should we try the intern now? No, I don't want to do that. All right. So what do you want to do then? And they took the brush and said, well, I want to be a sports reporter. And they just slid around the ice and interviewing each other and putting the scores up on the board. And they didn't get in the way for anyone else. They were just doing their own thing and sliding about. And they enjoyed that feeling of sliding on the ice. So you know what we did? We let them. Of course, the discussion was that this is a bit annoying. What do we do with these kids? We're going to lose them. But they're still playing. We just let them play. And I think somewhere, we have to look at that whole picture of grabbing what people like. Like I was saying to Kevin as well, grab what they like and let them run with it, because then you're going to do it as well as you can do. And on the NJCT, we focus on that on the competitions. I think the whole junior process had gone way too elite focused, and there was no fun at the competitions anymore. And certainly, for our kids coming up and this group of juniors that we're in charge of, we're going back to towards where we were, not where we were, but towards where we were. Each event has to have a social aspect. It has to be fun. It has to be more than the winning and the losing. And that's a huge thing that we've developed on NJCT. And I think it comes through this week as well with the social media stuff. And, who makes a great smoothie? Who makes great videos? The kid that made the theme tune for the week, give him a chance to shine. And, that might be enough for him to rise to the top and think, well, I'm great at making music, and I happen to play a bit of curling. I would say that needs to be the focus. And then also making other fun competitions that, I think there is a problem here when you finish junior, going over to senior. The competitions get less fun, and there has to be more competitions that have fun, so you can choose. That's another one we could spend a few days on, eh?
Yes.
That's a real doozy. It's a real doozy. Great question, Geza.
Thanks.
Thank you again. Are there any other questions? Does anyone want to put their camera on that can't access the chat? We'll see if they get the team's silence or if we Hey, Michael, there we go. Excellent. Good man. I think we've got time for one more question, and then I don't want to keep Maria and Greg more than I've agreed with them on.
Super quick one, hopefully super quick one. How do you deal with different ages when you're trying to build up a team and they're of different ages? The specific one, I'm just about to start coaching a team with girls between 12 and 16 years old. And if you have you got any experience with that and anything to look out for, mistakes to avoid?
Oh, that's not a quick question, Michael. That's weeks. That is weeks of content. Maria.
Oh, where to start with that one? Well, in early junior ages, it doesn't really matter, right? If it's a couple of years, but it all comes with when you start with your junior career, and maybe some of you can't be in the juniors, so that can be an issue. But also, if you have this team that you've been working with for a while, maybe you can get together with a couple of other players when the other ones can't be on the junior side, and it doesn't have to be a problem. It can be a chance to learn to play with other teammates as well. So I don't think you have to make it a big problem if it's only a couple of years or so, but I don't know what you say.
What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question to answer in about 30 seconds. But between the ages of 12 and 16, right? I think the first thing we're going to have is a varying level of ability. Because even just as kids, they're at different stages of development. So I think for me, if that was me in that situation, I would probably try and invest my time more into the sort of just the enjoyment of the sport, learning how to play the game, not necessarily getting into the fine details of technique or team dynamics. It's let's be honest, when you're that age, you just want to go out there and have fun, and I think being able to facilitate that's probably more important than anything. In time, should they choose curling as a lifestyle or a career, that's probably when the time will come to address the technique flaws on the intern or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think they have to enjoy it. And I think the more people enjoy it, the more likely they are to stay engaged with the sport going forward.
Yeah. I saw a great one with that, Greg. Last year, I think it was last year, we were at a competition in Gävle in the middle of Sweden, an under 16 competition, and Magnus Swartling, who played second for Pia Lindholm's team, 3-time world champion, curling parent, bringing his son into the sport. The kids came down, they got whopped 18-0. And I'm thinking, all right, and there's this murmur going on, like how are they going to react coming off? And they came off and they're like, right, game's over, let's get back to the pool at the hotel. and that was the focus. Okay, they were a bit disappointed, but they had a great weekend. They had so much fun, and they came out of their own ice rink, and I think it's really important not to put the adult view into the kids' heads. Let the kids have their own view and kind of mirror that view and facilitate as much as you can, I would guess. So
yeah,
that's good advice. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for being on, Michael. Excellent. Yeah, there's so many things we could talk about here. It's it just feels like we're getting warmed up now. But we're going to round off because we're already 6 minutes over. I'm thinking that if there's any other questions, because I say it's quite a short session that we've got on tonight, but we have covered an awful lot. If you've got any questions, everyone listening, maybe you could send them to NordicJuniorCurling@gmail.com. There was a strange email going about today with the NJCT Summer Camp 2021, and everyone was getting emails. Please don't send any more to that. Send it to NordicJuniorCurling@gmail.com, and then I can send them on perhaps to Greg and Maria, and if you've got time, you can just give a quick answer to that, and maybe we can post them somewhere or get back to you on that, because obviously there's a lot of engaged parents here. And that's great. Or maybe I can just answer the questions. Who knows?
Probably.
I'll give it a go anyway. Listen, guys, thank you again for your time, Maria and Greg. Excellent session tonight. It's been a pleasure having you on, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the summer, what's left.
No, absolutely, James. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. All the parents, if you can hang tough just for a couple of minutes, I've got a couple more things for you.
Okay.
Just
bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Cheers, Maria. Cheers, Greg. Or your parents too, Maria. You can stay if you want.
Thanks, guys.
They're off ski. Excellent. I think it's really super. We're up at 30. I think we're at 33, 34 people in here tonight, and I'm really happy. One of the big things for me on the NJCT and with this camp is that it's not just the juniors. It's important to have a coach and parent involvement, because like we talked about tonight, that is a key element for developing the kids and making it a good environment for them, a safe environment where they can all develop. And like we talked about, Greg's on at the 1%. Huge to be able to give them something else. We have to give the 99% something else too, and that's where we come in as adults, not as curling parents or coaches, just as adults. And it could be the case that you're giving lots of advice to your other kids or other kids in the group, but we're hugely important people for the kids growing up, and we know that, but I don't think we fully understand how important we are for even other kids around about and their development. So the whole "it takes a village to raise a child" mentality is really important here. And the one other thing that I'd just like to say, and it's a bit of a promo and a bit of a push, but we obviously, as you know, we do this camp for free, and I do it for free. And NJCT for me is something it's my baby. It's something I really want to give to the world of curling as much as I can anyway, and that's why I get all these good people here this week. And the one thing that I would request or ask for, if you can either support the Stash Strong. I think it's a really important charity obviously for Matt Hamilton, but the brain cancer research thing, if you can support them in some way, that's really appreciated. And you can either do it by supporting them directly to Stash Strong, or if you want to buy a t-shirt for your kid or for yourselves, then you'll support even Foxglide, who's the one of the supporters and partners of our NJCT since it started. And we're non-profit, no one gets paid for anything. The money that comes into us goes straight back out to kids, either at competitions or prize money, or for example, we started the Over the Pond Junior Curling Tour, the Over the Pond experience with Mark Kennedy, who's on tomorrow. And we want to make experiences for kids. And my last little bit about that was, it's all about just giving them good experiences. We live in quite a cynical, hard world where it's all about doing well and making your goals and all this kind of stuff. But I think there's somewhere in there we need to remember to have fun and enjoy what we're doing. We shouldn't forget that, and that's a really important thing that we need to get across to the next gen, so they don't lose interest in curling, that this is a fun thing to do and it's a life sport. Okay, I'm getting off my high horse now. That's me done. Does anyone want to put their video on and just give me a little bit of feedback how you thought the session went tonight? Feel like the school teacher. Anyone? Hey, Dylan, how are you doing?
Very well, James.
Haven't seen you for ages.
No, it's been a while. I just wanted to say how good the sessions have been. I've been listening in with Luke to all of the sessions. I mean, you've made his week. And we've got most of his under 14s curling team online here. The parents are here this evening. I just wanted to pass back how much I appreciate it and how much Luke appreciates it, and the brilliant job you're doing. The mixed doubles session the other day, I had played a little bit of mixed doubles back in the day, but to have all the podium members on board, I took a screenshot of my phone of all those medals on there. So I just wanted to say thank you, and it's been absolutely brilliant. Keep it up.
Thanks, Dylan. Wasn't it nuts having all of them? Like, I didn't realize, I forgot actually that the Norwegians got it afterwards. So that was really cool. And Caitlin sent a really nice message saying thanks for getting it all together, and I think she's at that stage of her career where she appreciates it too. You know, like the whole, the nice part. So that was the fluffy, rosy, the nice stuff roundabout. So
I love the fact Martin Rios faked. He didn't know where his medal was. It took him 15 seconds to find it.
Exactly. And I love Caitlin's reaction as well. She was shocked. Oh, that was excellent. Good man.
Cheers.
Thanks, Dylan. Look forward to enjoy the rest of the sessions. Good man. Excellent. Super. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, it's been a long day, and we're gonna call it quits for today. I think tomorrow, 4 o'clock Stockholm time. Mark Kennedy, and Mark is outstanding. If you haven't listened to Mark, like everyone's been great. Mark's so good. I've known Mark for a long time now, obviously competing against him and coaching against his team coming through, and now working with him on the Over the Pond Junior Exchange project. He's just a great guy, and if you can, listen in the background tomorrow when he's on, or watch the session afterwards. And just remember, any information or questions, send it to nordicjuniorcurling@gmail.com, not the other one. All right, excellent. Take care, guys. Have a good evening. I'm going to sleep. I'm out of here. Okay, good night.